Hello everyone. I would like to today talk about the importance of writing with life. And this talk is very fruitful for those who are inspired by words and seek to explore such structures. But before I carry on, I want you to, in your most freshest and comfortable seat in existence, to see in front of you your favorite tree and the branches, and visualize the branches of this tree being right in front of your face. So it's as if the tree has extended a part of itself in front of you. Now, if you were to hold one of these branches on this tree that is as thick as a pen or a pencil, and you just held it, and I recommend even people to actually go try this in nature as well, and to hold a branch on a tree like a pencil and see what is there to write and how can you write with this. Because when you do this, when you have held that branch like a pencil in your hand, you realize there never was a pencil, that the essence of the pencil came from nature, and the wisdom of nature is vast, and in its gracious observance it allows many things to happen. And as you hold this branch, observe how it is connected to other branches to then be connected to the roots, and it's within the soil of all life. So when I first held a branch like a pencil, it was so fulfilling in the sense that I just saw whatever I wanted to write has already been written. Yeah. So it's a very, very natural feeling. You see, regardless of what profession you go into, regardless of what skill, action, or whatever it is that you're doing, it is very important to see that before you are somebody, you are an awareness to life. You are present, you are alive. This value of your life has value before you even learned words or were in an area to even have access to knowledge. We all sprout from a very fixed existential awareness to who we are. In other words, think of where you are right now and your dimension of reality or your reality as a room. And so your whole life you have began walking and you've gone into this house and you've gone into this specific room of this house. You've come into this position in this specific sector of the universe. So now that you're here, you must also remember through a very authentic, natural and compassionate sense of being where you are and who you are. And this sense of who you are is beyond ideology. It is beyond terminology. It is beyond form, simply because it observes form. You are the simple observance of all complexity. And man is a very multidimensional being in the sense that he needs to acknowledge his multidimensionality now, because he requires to explore not just his external reality but his internal reality as well. It seems that human beings are being born and are forgetting the value of one's internal dimensions. In other words, many people are bothered by the concept of a God or something to, in a sense, devote to have devotion to. I want you to forget any God or no God. I want you to just look at your life, and before you can see God, there is life in front of you. And so it's important to see this life. It is important to see life beyond ideology. And that is through direct experience. And what direct experience means is that the minute I say it, the silence after, where you find yourself to be the only view of your vision, you will then, through the clarity of knowing yourself, act. For the clarity of knowing yourself is natural. You are a natural being. And so your awareness to life is very natural as well. Now, as you become aware of life, the path of devotion, take the concept of devotion and do not think that it's only to one form. Do not just pray to one form. In a sense, have devotion for your moment of being, where all manifestation is present. We are now at a point where advanced communicators must follow their own grace into the greater exploration that they will become. They are not exploring something anymore. Internal dimensions, there is no something to explore. It is that sense of becoming. It is that firmness and certainty in which your roots are within all existence. So when you want to go and explore this, you realize who have this other explorers have been. Who are other people who have been trying to write with life. You will see that there is a type of person, type of human being, which is a very able human being. And this human being is one who understands the value of the unknown aspects of one's intelligence. And what that means is that you're not just convinced by what you've immediately observed, because you can observe more. And so because you always have this potential to observe more, there is an infinite quality there where you see there is something profound in your presence between two mirrors, where it's as if like there's infinite views, but at the same time without the mirrors there's nothing. And so we find reality in different frameworks just to see that the picture is so vast it cannot be framed. Now, because this is specifically intended for writers, it is important to see that before you write anything, what do you know? And in observance of your knowing, you see that a lot of it has been based on sound, forms, and also a certain attitude you've had towards life. And what that means is that many people are forgetting this factor, that their life is not just what's put in front of them, it's also how they are approaching it. Your health, your awareness, it is all in how you, as a point of existential attention, are paying attention to your existence, to yourself. And so, you, as a writer who is writing with life, must see that you have nothing to say but everything that you, in a sense, are to be. So there's no longer a sense of writer's block, because there's no identification with just one idea. You are finding the flexibility in conscious awareness, in the sense that how it works with its shape is that it's always changing its shape. Who you think you are, even the idea of you, is constantly changing. Do not think that with every breath there is not a new you breathing. There is always a sense of novelty, because that novelty is the formless presence of man keeping its form in the beautiful golden ratio that it's flowing in. And what that means is that consciousness is very fascinating, because how you approach it is at first suggesting that there's a path. However, the path will dissolve through your devotion to observe the beauty of life, in the sense that you are observing your moment in the now, in the sense that clarity was always here. And so the writer is experiencing ecstatic bliss. You know, it is in a sense not only the mystics who are journeying into the unknown when you as a being just become interested in how you're being. You see, fear is only present when you have not moved from your first comparison point. So what that means is that if I was a child, let's say I was 10 years old and let's say I trip. And when I trip, I'm running, let's say, towards a certain environment. Now, let's say in the future, I see that same environment again, and I'm running. And suddenly when I'm running, that feeling is coming back. The reason that feeling is coming back, because I still feel that it was me who had gone through that experience. There is still a referential basis with my memory. In other words, how you are associating or working with your memory is really the confusion. Therefore, you do not need security from fear. You do not need to protect yourself from danger. A wise being understands that this world is a changing. And so as there is senses of change, as we are temporal beings, there is the awareness that change is not to be grasped or in a sense grabbed onto. You're not here trying to grab onto imagery which will save you or free you or in a sense be your freedom. Imagery is something to observe in the sense that your observance will go so deep that the writer who thought was writing words suddenly begins seeing the immensity of the projections of his origination of conception, whether it's verbally or it's just simply just a gaze. There will be a depth present within you that will be your vision having extended so far that there's no longer a need to envision like that. And so the freedom many people seek is an allowance from self to, in a sense, be all selves. You must find within yourself the ability to have devotion, love, compassion, and the ability to be very authentic, sincere with yourself, and to recognize that the beauty of life is to be seen in an instant. And because your sense of transcendent view or your sense of, let's say many people have called enlightenment, that is a very beautiful thing. So seek beauty and you will see, you will go through the flow of devotion. And what that means is that logically you will no longer be concerned, but you will see how this body is being stimulated. So you walk and suddenly it's as if you're breathing with all life. It is a very simple thing. It's like the simplicity that you figure out after looking at a very complex thing and suddenly realizing it's made of simple parts. So reality, when we make it a very complex illusion, it seems like it needs to have another more complex reality that could get it out. Man's mind is the confusion because there is something called as man's mind. When I put a mask for something that needs no mask, there will always be a sense of illusion. So then why would I have put a mask on myself? And this is where you as a being recognize that there are aspects of yourself which you have not been honest to. The ability of a being is found in this plane of existence, in this dimension, with his honesty to self and to life. In other words, forget all those things that your parents never told you or no one ever told you. It is not something that is based immediately on external reality. It is your awareness to external reality. So it doesn't matter whether it's I'm reading words that are changing in front of my eyes, whether it's just one leaf falling, or whether it's my eyes are closed. It's just that the experience of being is one where the pilot of consciousness has become all planes of conception. He is the navigator of it because his knowing is sparked out of a very deep and unspeakable sense of being with all that is. And that is when finding Mr. Within becomes that moment where you've always been found. You've always found Mr. Within, but who is looking for Mr. Within? And so it is important because it is the flexibility in our thought that gives permission for our solidified beliefs and structures to, in a sense, transition. We must have faith more in our liquid sense and collective sense of intelligence than just the individual. And so it is from the collective that you expand into the nothing that is here. Because I, in a sense, have always envisioned that the most beautiful thing any speaker can say is that I'm talking about nothing, but here are my ideas on something. Because nothing does not create a shape to ridicule. So I want you guys to clearly see that in all my talk, I'm really talking about nothing. But I have a lot of ideas on something. Now, to write with life requires your involvement. And you see, there are moments in a person's life, in a human being's life, where they're acknowledging themselves at a certain state of being, but suddenly they gain an ability of envisioning themselves and they see their potential could be much more. So then, that life of abundance is more real for them. But true abundance must be one that is experientially relevant. So, how much would you be convinced if someone came to you and said, "Oh man, you're gonna go to heaven. Trust me, I know." You know, you would be like, "Who are you?" And then, if that person was wise, he'd say, "Who are you?" And you will see that it is life that has always written you. In your sense of peacefulness, you may work with chaos. In your sense of chaos, you have always been peaceful. And so it is your ability to observe your own polarities and spectrums of duality which you have considered for yourself, and allowing that to integrate with your more direct awareness to what life is. What that means is sometimes we find things to be significant when they really are not. And I feel one of the greatest gifts that mankind would want is one of clarity. Would you rather have a gift that would give you clarity, or a gift that would give you something which after you're done with it, you'd still wonder about something else? It is you who must explore your internal dimensions. There is nobody else. You are, in a sense, always following your knowing. And so the clarity of your knowing is where liberation becomes your own choice, which has already been made. So in life, do not also have the approach of trying to get something out of some process. Simply observe the process and you will see the wealth of wisdom, vision, view, knowledge, other forms of abundance will gravitate to you because you now have the tranquil ability to observe that which was not there. So the minute I have an ability to observe myself to be a saint, I am no longer a sinner. But similarly, the minute I have the ability to consider myself the sinner, I am no longer a saint. And so it is the ability of me as a being to acknowledge and observe the spectrum of both saint and sinner, and then to see what nature has decided to flow beyond the ideology that could never control nature. Because we are thinking that imagery, which we are specifically looking at, is in a sense affecting nature. But it is in essence really affecting your nature of reality. Because there are certain aspects of how human beings are in existential communication that the unknown factor is simply the platform where non-existence is the continuation. Non-existence in the forms that we're conceiving that certain type of existence. And so you are your own greatest inspiration and activation. And it is an allowance for you to breathe as naturally as you always have that will show you that be certain in your trust of life you will be given the right hand and you will always be found in the blank page of your beautiful moment. I hope this talk shows you the value of self-clarity. And in such a wondrous gaze, may you always find yourself profoundly present. Much blessings and lights.